Hey everybody, yes, I'm up late again. Cramp Steve here. And I touched on some of the presser feet that you all would be using, especially you new guys. And I thought, what better way to teach you how to use them than to use them myself, than show you how. So um, this book is an invaluable item. It has most of the presser feet that you would come across, mainly the normal ones that you would see on a daily basis. They would use zipper foot, zigzag foot, blind hem foot, things like that. And so, if you get a chance, this is definitely the book to get. The Sewing Machine Accessory Bible, and it has great pictures in it, and it shows you what the stitches are supposed to look like when you're using the zipper foot, and then the other foot in there, as a matter of fact. So, you're getting a little treat today. I decided to break out for the first time. So this is live. I'm a little nervous, but not really, but kind of. So this is a Vintage Kenmore. It's a cam sewing machine. And I like gadgets. So that's probably why I like sewing machines, because it's intriguing and it's interesting to find out how they work. So a cam machine, or this one in particular, typically the cam is located on the top. You open it up and there are, and I've got a whole set for this machine. It came with all the bells and whistles in it. And this is what they look like. They don't look like much. There's a round piece of plastic, kind of bumpy, with some holes in it. But on top of it, it shows a design number. And I do have the original manual with this machine, which is another awesome thing. Even if you get a machine and you don't have the manual, you can find them online. You can download the PDFs, put them on a disk, and print it out. I like to see the pages. I don't like to look at a computer screen and then go back and forth do this thing. That drives me crazy. But if you get a cam machine and it doesn't have the cams with it from whoever you buy it from, the thing you want to make sure is when you're looking for cams and you're asking about the person who's selling it, make sure that you measure the inside of the cam, and to notice, like, this one has a ridge inside. Now you can't really see that too well, but inside there's a ridge that's the part that makes it snap in and stay put. So you snap it in there. This is the part of the machine of this particular model that the cams are for, the decorative stitches, the zigzag stitches. So that's what these do, and it makes all kinds of. The more cams you got, the more designs you can do. So this is kind of like a straight and zigzag and sort of an embroidery machine all in one. And it's solid metal and it'll last forever, as long as I take good care of it, and I plan on it. Okay, so what I've got, and which is a good thing for all you newbies out there, when you first get your first sewing machine, it comes with maybe, I believe, 4 presser feet. You'll have a zigzag slash straight presser foot, and you'll have a buttonholer foot, and you'll have a buttonhole foot, and then I believe it's like 4 different ones. Well, this little kit, you can find it online all day long, and it's not going to break the wallet. It's called a multifunctional kit 11. They have 11, they have 20, they got 30, and so on and so forth, 52, all the way up to, I think, like 72 presser feet. It's a bit much to start off with. So 11 is a good start, because the presser feet that are on this kit, they call them universal snap-on. So you want to make sure that your sewing machine that you have purchased actually takes snap-on feet. I remember when I told you about short shank and high shank? You want to make sure that they fit for this machine anyway. It's a short shank, very short. See? So you want the kind of feet that will snap onto a short shank or this type of machine. Most of them are nowadays, unless you specifically find a brand that they specialize in the long shank. The long shank does have its advantages. Long shank is like a slant shank, you know. I use all of them, and mainly because I want to experience the different ways they function and how it affects how you stitch. I mean, as far as how you guide the fabric through and that sort of thing. So with this one, in this little multi-functional kit, we have, I'll hold this up while I read it for you. In this kit, there is paper. I should have put on some cardboard. But there is, in the upper left hand, we've got a pleating foot, an invisible zipper foot, a regular zipper foot. There's a difference, and we'll get into that. A 3mm roll of lace pressure foot. It's called a narrow rolled hem foot, but narrow rolled hem foot is what I call it. A nail button pressing foot. That's an interesting one. I've never used one, and today I'm going to use one on the fly. Never done it. So if I mess up, I'm human. Sewing presser foot. Well, it has a little metal bar, you can see in the picture there, and that's so you make a nice straight seam. It's a seam guide part of it. A quilt presser foot. Now, the great thing about this particular machine is that if you're going to do quilting, in quilting, you do not want the feed dogs pulling the material. It's free motion. You want to have control of the fabric at all times instead of letting the machine do the work when you're doing your quilting, because you're dealing with layers. So you want it to guide it and do your little cute fancy stitching around there, you know. And so this particular model sewing machine and a lot of the older ones, you can drop the feed dogs by just a little switch. And there's this little lever right here that puts them down. So this way, there's nothing grabbing the fabric. And actually, when I did my practice stitches on this just a little while ago, I forgot the feed dogs were down, and I'm like, it's not stitching. What's wrong with this thing? And I started looking. I go, wait a minute, got them up. So yes, I did my practice stitches. Thank you very much. I told you guys you gotta do practice stitches. Beginners, you have to do practice stitches, especially when you've got a new machine that you've never used before. If it's a machine you've had for a while, you still do practice stitches. It doesn't matter. You want to make sure that from the last time you used it, that nothing changed. And so this is what the stitches looked like before I realized that, right here, that the feet were down. Not very good. Something. Okay, I got it. Put my feet up. Now I got beautiful, nice straight stitches. Just because I followed my own rules. I did my practice stitches. So that's why I enforce them. Not just for you guys. Then we have a roller foot. I'm going to show you these in just a second. Button holding presser foot, embroidered presser foot, and a blind stitch presser foot. That's my new best friend. And I discovered that I could do hems really fast and have them look so professional. I think, I know. So what's great about these kits that you get that have the assorted feet in them, they are in the little holder. Ha! See, I told you. I was going to drop something. I always drop something. But they're in the container the same way they are in the picture. So I've even taken, like I have in my regular sewing area, I have one of those craft cabinets with all the little plastic drawers, and I've got them labeled. And what I've done with, when I have more than, and I have a collection of different feet, the same, you know, the exact same kind, and I will take, since this one came with this little piece of paper on it, I cut the little pictures out and I taped them to the front of the drawers so I know what's in that drawer, even though I do have it labeled that says zipper foot or buttonhole foot. But I can look at the picture and just grab it even faster. Yeah, I can read, but pictures work better. So the pleating foot that I knocked out of here, by the way, is, I'm going to put them back where they go. Where'd you go, little pleating foot? It is that guy. Ta-da, pleating foot, hello. Oh, I know, there's somewhere. It's here somewhere. I can't believe I probably don't. It's probably on, well, I know. I'm going to be the one that will hit the floor and I don't see it. But the pleating foot has a wide opening in it. If I find it in a minute, we'll get it up here. And next to that, we have the invisible zipper foot. Now the invisible zipper foot is clamps on the top, on the bottom. It looks like there's two little tracks. Two little tracks, and that's where the zipper fits into it. Now this is not an invisible zipper, but it could be. So an invisible zipper, on the top of an invisible zipper, you don't see the little ridges of what the zipper is. It's cloth to cloth. You don't see the zipper at all. That's why I bought invisible zipper. So when this is going through the foot, and that foot is sitting on that zipper, those two little tracks are right there, and you literally just sew on either side of that zipper. You don't catch the teeth in it, and bam, you've done the zipper really quick. I like the invisible zippers. The only thing with invisible zippers is a lot of times the sizes are limited. And if you need a 22-inch invisible zipper, you might be able to find a 20-inch or possibly a 24. But if it's a popular size, you might have a hard time finding it. So I have a collection that I got over the years, actually on the internet. Someone was selling them. And I said, ooh, box full of zippers? Yeah, I want that. Now, the regular zipper foot, on the other hand, you have to, when you're sewing a regular zipper, sew down one side of the teeth, across the bottom, and back up. So this is what a regular zipper foot in this kit looks like. And it looks like this. And you'll see it has two little sections, each with a little metal bar to snap onto. It's a snap-on foot. So when you go up one side, you snap it onto that side. Then when you go down to go around to the other side, you snap it onto the other side. The reason being is you want this edge right, right here to be right next to the zipper teeth without stitching actually on them. And we're going to do that in a second. I'm going to go through these feet real quick, and then we're going to do the zipper first. I figure we do the hard one first, so that way everything else will be like a piece of cake and won't get so nervous. I always do the hard stuff first. I don't know why, but anyway. So the one that I was showing you that I said was the they call it something totally different. They call it a roll of lace pressure foot. That's not what I call it, but I know that I flung it on the table somewhere. And then, oh, look, there's the missing one. That's the pleating foot. So it literally creates little pleats in your fabric as you sew. It's really cool. So you literally have two pieces of material and it pleats it for you as it comes to it. These are really neat to watch. Next time we're going to do this one because I haven't used one in a while, and it's a lot of fun. I'm missing that. Okay, then we have the nail button pressure foot, and I mentioned these before. These button pressure, whatever reason, I don't know why, they always have blue tips. And so when you put this down, there's the bar on the other side. You snap it in, and the button sits up under it. And I have a collection of some buttons that I haven't used. So we're going to try this out. So we're going to do zipper foot, button foot. And like I said, this is live. I've already dropped stuff, right? So what's a button? Never used one of these, and I've never have, and I swore if it turns out that I like it, I'm going to be hooked. Because I keep sewing on buttons. Well, that's not true. When I have a pair of jeans, and this is where I do not use a button foot. Because of it being in a stress area where it's going to have a lot of movement and bending and that sort of thing, then I definitely hand sews. And I'm going to show you guys how to hand sew a button on the next video. There is a very specific technique, and it works and it holds up for a very, very long time. Now, since I showed you the button foot, there's the button holder foot. And how the button holder foot works is you snap it in, you put the button in the back, and since the button is only so big, when this starts moving with the needle, it's only going to go as far as wide as the button is. That's why these are the cool. They didn't used to make them like this. You had to, oh my goodness, we used to take and either use tracing paper or a marking pen and draw out the size of the buttonhole according to the layout on the pattern, and then stitch it. And then they use a fabric cutter to cut the buttonhole open. But cutting a buttonhole open part is still the same. The way you make the buttonhole is different. Some of these vintage machines actually have an extra attachment. I believe this one does, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't used it. It's a main gadgets anyway, where it attaches to the needle plate part of your sewing machine, and there's a little gear, and it literally has little plastic cams, just like that, in the shape of a buttonhole. And so as the gear goes around, it only makes it as big as what that cam is. And this one has one. We'll have to do that one day. But there is also, this is the sewing presser foot, as they call it. Basically, this is a seam foot. The metal piece here is to make sure that you keep your seam straight. That's what that one is for. And then we have quilt. The quilt presser foot. What is a quilt? Yeah, this is a quilt presser foot. Now, what's interesting about the quilt presser foot, there are little notches on the side. That's so that when you're doing your stitching, whether you're the quilting term, stitching in the ditch, which means you have two two pieces, squares, triangles, whatever, sewn together in a quilt, and this is the seam where they're sewn. When you stitch in the ditch, you stitch in there, so that way it lays better. So that one's for that. And that little guy goes in that space. And then we have a roller foot. Now, roller foot, roller in there. I like the fact that they're clear. This is for thick fabric. So if you're working with thick fabric, let's say wool or a couple layers of felt or whatever, this is what you want to have. The little roller on here it's not teeth, but it's rigid, and it helps pull the fabric through with the help of the foot dogs as well. And then that's the regular zipper foot, and it goes there. And then we have this guy. Oh, no, that's wrong. This is my favorite one. Blind stitch presser foot. It's called, this is the guide. This allows you to adjust the seam, the blind hem, excuse me. And so you can adjust it. However, and when you keep the fabric up against this guard, that's what keeps your stitches from making not a blind hem. In other words, sewing through the layer that it's not supposed to. And we're going to do one of these. I'm going to show you how to use these. If you like to have very nice crisp hems on, say, curtains or even your own clothes, this is a great way to do it. And it cuts down on a lot on the time that it takes to make them also. And yeah, there's the little button foot guy. And there. And then, what am I missing? Oh, I didn't show you this one. This is an embroidered presser foot. This, if some people call it an applique foot. The reason being is this bar, this little bar here, this middle thing, this sits on top of the screw that holds your needle in place. And basically, it only lets it go so far. And that's so that you can have control over the applique. That's basically what that. I call it an applique foot. It just says it's embroidered foot. You can embroider also. You just have to use small, tiny stitches to do it. But the other one is that goes. What's that? Oh yeah, that rolled lace hem foot. Now it looks a lot like this one, and I bet you it's on the floor. Let me see, real quick. It's down there. I'll find it later, I'm sure. See, I get kind of klutzy sometimes. But anyway, let me see it here. But this one is similar in respect of how it works. I have a couple of these kits, so I know how those. This is a narrow roll hem foot as well. Now, there are two very distinct types. I have one in here. I'll show you. Same one that's in that kit. This is actually the original pressure feet that came with this machine. Like I said, it came with everything. Cams, manual, accessories, everything. And this one has, yeah, this is almost exactly like the one that I dropped on the floor somewhere. So it kind of looks like this. Now, this little gizmo right here, this is where you have to guide the fabric so that it rolls and stitches a very narrow hem in it. This style is a little bit different. It's not as hard to use because it's wider. And all you need to do with one of this type is, however, this is, I think they call that a 3/8 inch. So if you take your fabric and you press up a 1/4 inch of it or 3/8 inch of it, when you put that pressed started seam, I guess is what I'm going to call, or hem, when you have it pressed, it flips over and does the rolled hem a whole lot easier. And I know using an iron before you get ready to, you just want to get in there and stuff. Take the time to do it the right way the first time until you get, you get practice. And I was like, oh, I can do this, and then just do it. That was my rule of thumb with this. And I have some feet over here that were not in that book, so I've been kind of checking them out. One of them I actually figured out by myself by looking at other ones. It's a very cool foot, as a matter of fact. It's a braiding foot. You will actually braid strips of fabric for you. And the way I remembered it was a braiding foot was it has this very telltale little triangle in the middle, little triangle there. And as you put it makes it look braided. It's craziest thing. I'm gonna try this one out later, and then I'll show you. Okay, so that's those. So when you're doing your zipper, and this is that came with this machine. This is the invisible zipper that came with this machine. So I think I'd like to use that one. And that's always good to use the feet that come with your machine. But if you get new ones and they actually are adaptable, by all means, use them. So we're going to take this little guy, take off my straight slash zigzag simple foot off this machine. Just unscrew the screw there, pull it off, and I'm going to set that. I'm going to set it to the right side. And then this, in this respect, what's really nifty about it is it's adjustable. The older machines would do that. Is like I'm left-handed and right-handed people don't always sew the same way. But since I've learned to sew right-handed, there's no such thing as a left-handed sewer. Left-handed cutter, yeah, I cannot cut with my right hand for nothing. No way. I don't have the dexterity in my right hand to do it. This little screw on the back. So if you ever get press rate, they have a little screw on the back, and they look like they're in this little channel. It's adjustable from one side to the other. So if your zipper has more than a 5/8 inch seam, say you have, let's say this is where your zipper is going to go. I used white hook where you can see it. If this seam was actually deeper in on the item, then I would be able to adjust where my zipper foot's going to go to make sure that that seam is where the zipper is actually going. The only example I could think of that is maybe in some designs that you come up with yourself. Most clothing that you make from a pattern, it's going to be a 5/8 inch seam. No matter where the zipper's at, it's going to be 5/8 inch. So I'm going to put the invisible zipper foot. I'm going to show you that an invisible zipper foot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go part way with it, and I'm going to take it off and put on the regular zipper foot to show you how you use that. So I'll do one side invisible and one side with the regular one. That should work. I just like how the invisible zipper foot actually feeds the zipper through, even when it's not an invisible zipper. So you've already done your seam where the zipper's going to go. And normally what you're going to do is you're going to take that seam and to make sure that this lays nice and flat and smooth all the way down on the inside of your zipper, you're going to press this open. When you press your seam open, front, I do it on the front and the back. I like it nice and crisp. I don't want any poofs or any, and then if you don't feel like you have the time to do that, you can finger press. I don't think I have discussed that before. Finger press is literally your finger. I'm using my thumbnail. Or there is a plastic gadget, just a piece of thick plastic that has a point on it. It's called a corner turner, and you can use that to press it. Or you can even take both scissors and you can just run it down that seam so that you're just kind of pressing with absence, basically. So you can just run it down there. I like using, for some reason, I think my thumbnail works better. I don't know why. But anyway, so it's not completely flat, but it's flatter than it was. It's a lot flatter than it was. And you want it to be flat. So in doing that, and I'm not using any pins right now. I do apologize for that. But what you typically and should do is you want to pin the zipper to fabric. When you pin it, let's say this is a maybe a 9-inch zipper. Yeah, this is a 9-inch zipper. 9 inches of opening. So what you want to do is on the wrong side, yeah, the wrong side, you open your seam up. This is your wrong side. That's where the seam was made. And here's the right side of the zipper because that's where the pull is. I'm going to put that right side against the wrong side. Because what do you see when you open up? See the zipper opened up from the left side. I mean, sorry, the right side with the right side of the zipper facing out. In order to make it facing out, it's got to be on the inside. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, this would be the outside of your garment that you're making, that you're using the zipper for. And you're going to pin it and get the glass bead end pins. They're nice and sharp. And if you have to iron it, it's not going to melt the ends. And you can see them because they have little colored glass beaded ends. So you put your zipper there. Now when you're pinning it, and this is how I do mine, I pin it where I do it an inch at a time. So I flip it up and I make sure that that seam is right in the middle of those tracks of teeth, right in the middle. And when you pin it, you don't pin it vertical. No, 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 no. Because how are you going to sew this together? You're going to sew it vertically. You're going to sew it down one side, across the bottom, back up, right? You do not want a pin in your way unless you don't mind taking twice as long to sew it. I don't. And I would sew it the other way. And you can take a pin and literally put it in on one side of that zipper where the teeth are and go through to the other side and you don't use as many pins. So on this one, you could do 1, 2, 3, probably about 11 pins, 10, 12 pins maybe. If you're kind of nervous about doing your first zipper, do more pins, maybe 3/4 of an inch apart. And the ones that always get kind of messed up when I've done or have done them is the tabs on the top. Now, most patterns you're going to come across will have one of two things. The top of your zipper is either going to be a facing, and what a facing is a lining. It's something that finishes off that top seam, and it will fold over the top of the top part of the zipper. Otherwise, you won't have that, and this will be something that might end up being turned down like, just the way this is. But I don't have a pattern right on hand, and we're going to go over patterns down the road anyway. So you pin your zipper right side to wrong side with the seam pressed open, right down the middle. Now, with an invisible zipper foot, the advantages to the invisible zipper foot is that teeth tracks, I guess what you would call it. Speaking of, nose is itching like crazy today. You put the zipper right in the middle of it. Now, on this particular machine, now on the zipper foot, and I can show you on the regular one, I call it the old timey one. Same on the invisible zipper foot as the regular zipper foot is there is a notch on either outside part. That's where your needle's going to go. So for you newbies that are, when you do your first zipper, after you put your zipper foot in, by hand, do the first couple turns of the wheel towards you. Remember, we don't ever turn the wheel away from us. It can cause damage to your machine, motor, and gosh only knows what else. So now I'm looking at this, and I say that, you know what, I'm wanting to do an advanced move, and we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to do it beginner way. So beginner way, regular zipper foot has the two snap-ons. Now, somewhere I have a snap-on in here somewhere. Oh gosh, there it is. Nope, that's not a snap-on. That is a solid foot. So I have a snap-on foot, and I don't have a snap-on foot, which is a snap-on shank. I don't have one here. I don't think there's one in this box, but you never know what I can find in here. Let's see what we find in here. Oh, since it's an original machine, it's going to have all cold feet. So, like I said, anything can happen when you're live. I believe I have one right behind me here. I have one right over here. You always keep one hanging out somewhere. And there it is. So, if you are planning on your sewing mostly being universal snap-on presser feet, make sure you have one of these little guys. That is a low shank adapter. And the great thing about these is there's a release lever on the back. There's another style that has a button. It's cute too. I have both kinds. So before you put your zipper foot onto this, you have to put the adapter onto the presser bar. So put it in there, and you'll notice, just like with the presser feet themselves, there's the little groove that slides onto the presser bar, and a little screws into it. Now, this is the presser foot, and we have to decide, do I want to sew down the left side first or the right side first? Well, being a lefty, I'll go on the left side. So when you go on the left side, you're looking at the foot this way, okay? The presser bar snap-in adapter is going to go here on the left. So that way, the rule of thumb is when you're doing the zipper, more metal away from the teeth. The biggest part of the presser foot away from the teeth of the zipper. So that's why we're going to clip it on here instead of the other way around. When we go around to the other side, we move it. So I'm going to put that. And what that allows you to do is to keep your stitches extremely close to the zipper without sewing through it. And the way you attach it is you put the foot underneath it and with your presser foot bar up, and when you drop it down, it should snap right on. If it doesn't, you can just take the front of it and kind of wiggle a little bit and it'll snap in place. Okay, so now I'm going to lift it up because I have to put the zipper under it, right? So we're going to do that. Put that zipper right in the middle of there. I got to move it down a little bit because I forgot about the top part. And so if you'll notice on zippers, they have the tabs at the top have that rolled kind of hem, little thick part. So, and that's another reason why you want to put the presser foot this way, because now you can stitch right next to it and not have a crooked stitch. So we're going to put this in here. I always say before you start to hit the pedal, you put the needle in. And I always like to do at least the first stitch by hand just to secure it, make sure it's in the right place. And do like that. And especially for you that are new, the more control you have over your project, the better. And the more careful you are with it, the more confident you'll get as you do more and more projects. The one thing also, when you first start to sew on the zipper is the pull, the zipper pull, flip it up before you start sewing down the zip. Flip it up. And the reason why you flip it up is like when you finish sewing down both sides, down the one side, across the bottom, back up the other side, when you flip it to the right side out, you're going to take a little seam ripper and rip the stitches out. And that way, the pull will be already up for you, so you can go ahead and unzip it. Make sure that you didn't, sew through any of the teeth. So this lovely vintage doesn't have a foot pedal. It has a knee pedal. Basically, it's a knee control. And there's a lot more control with your knee than with your foot. And that's why I love these desk models with the knee control. So here we go. So we're just going to go right down the side here. Now, grab it. I'm thinking of using my foot. But so we're going to, and like I said, I go about every inch. And you can do this as well. You can either leave the pins in it, or you can take them out as you stitch because you've already stitched one side and you feel comfortable. It's good. You can do it that way. And go right down as close as possible to that zipper. The teeth area there. And when you get to the bottom, what you're going to do is keep the needle in, lift the presser foot up, turn it to the right because you're getting ready to go back up the other side, right? And the sewing machine does what? It pulls the fabric away from you, so you want to make sure the work is going away from you. And I will typically, on the base of the zipper, go forward across both channels and then reverse. This one you just push it up for reverse. A lot of them will have like a button. And you go back and back over, and then make sure when you're coming back that it's just on the other side. Now, because I did this way, I actually don't have to change my presser foot, and from the zipper foot, and I forgot about that part. It just depends on where you want to start. If you want to start on the opposite side, then obviously my zipper foot would have been snapped on the other side. But since I used the left side, I can literally go down across the bottom and back up without having to change it. And that was my mistake. I forgot. So, I'm sorry. So now I'm going to go back to the other side. This machine is so nice and quiet. sometimes when you get to the tab at the end, you gotta kind of wiggle it a little bit, get it to where it needs to be, like that, and that's okay. Be careful with your finger. Now, on at the end of the zipper, and this happens to me all the time. Don't be upset if it does to you. The last leg of this, going up and trying to stay close to that thick rolled edge. Don't worry if you don't get it. That's what I will do is I'll go ahead and take it out, and I'll unzip. Well, go to the right side, take the stitches out, and then unzip it down so far, reposition that last inch, and just fix it. Make it nice and straight. Now you can see, considering this is material I should have played with a little bit more, but as you can see, it's nice and even on either side, and that's what you want it to look like. Now I don't have a seam ripper. I've looked for one. This machine didn't come with one. Usually that, but there's this little guy. So poker, pointer, whatever, little needle, and I used a contrast thread just so you could see the stitching. And what you do is you take your seam ripper. I'm going to start this with this little guy. And oh, important. I left this part out. The seam that you make, that you're placing your zipper on, that you're going to seam rip out, you can use a large stitch instead of the normal stitch that you're going to use, for the whole outfit or whatever you're making. You do not. That way, when you go to take the stitches out, it's a whole lot easier. If they're large stitches, they rip out really easily. So I'm going to take the first stitches out of here so you can see that. That actually worked. Look at that. You just rip them out. I've had a seam ripper, this will go faster. For the seam ripper, and we'll get into the proper way to use a seam ripper too. Because if you don't use it right, you can really tear up what you're making. It will literally cut the fabric if you don't use it correctly. And you don't want to have to start over again because you may not have extra fabric to start over again with. So I'm gonna pretend this is a seam ripper real quick. And it's actually working pretty good for that. Yeah, I've been doing this a minute, so anyway, this one, because I didn't pin it, and that was mine that I should have pinned it. So I'm bad crafty, so that's a pin. But when you pin it properly, so if your stitches are going to be where they're supposed to be, right? Then when you're going to take the stitches out, you're going to have the same amount of fabric on one side as the other. Well, actually, no. With regular zipper, you don't. One side, it should overlap a little bit, but it can be like flush. Because there is a certain style of sewing a zipper in that it has, because we used to have to do them where the one side flapped over a little bit, but that when you zipped it and unzipped it, it didn't catch the teeth or anything. So it's kind of like what this one did. I got a bump over here. I gotta fix it. So I started taking the stitches out on the other side. Okay, start taking them out. You can see the pink zipper in there. And this is why I say have the pull facing up. As you see, it's up. It's up towards the top, facing up. And that way, when you take the stitches out, all you have to do is this. Okay. So, and you want to make sure that zips shut, opens up without a problem. Zipper puts on as bad as they sound. Buttonholes that are worse. But we'll get to those. They'll be all right. Now, speaking of buttonholes, button foot that I have never used. Never, ever. This is a first. So, we'll see how this one goes. So, I have my little lever on the back of my shank foot here. Push that lever and it comes right off. You're ready for your next presser foot. And that's what it's all about. Also, when you are new and you want to make sure you have at least about 5 inches of lead thread, because when you do the first couple stitches, this pulls up, and I can't tell you how many times I had to rethread my machine because I forgot to pull my 5 inches off. And I hate rethreading, but that's just me. So I have some, and when you're doing a button, sewing a button, you're almost definitely going to be sewing through 2 layers of fabric, possibly 3, especially if there is a fusible interface in the pattern instructions that tells you to use for strength, which is a very good idea. It doesn't say use it. Use it anyway. Because if you have a lightweight material and buttons how do they work? You button them, unbutton them, button, unbutton. And after time, the button might not be there anymore. So you really don't want that. Replacing buttons isn't bad. Who likes to do it? I don't. So snip this little guy off the card. And these buttons here, all the ones I had, just have the 2 little holes in them. This is a good thing. Maybe they don't make them all like that. I remember in the day when we had 4 holes. So when you sewed them by hand, you did a crisscross little design. And that's why they stayed on so good. All right. Hey guys, never used one. This is a first. Okay, I see the bar. That's where it snaps in. That much I know. And I'm going to put that right under there. Sometimes I have to lift it up just a little bit to get it there. Okay. And I know what I've been told how to use these. Let's give it a look. Oh, it didn't snap in. So all I got to do is lift it a little bit, maybe move it a little bit. The last thing you want to do with your, your presser foot bar is let it slam down. Do not do that. Not let it slam down. That is not nice. Not nice for the machine. I had a economic teacher who would yell at you if you did that. Come on. Okay, you in there? Oh, it's in there. It took a minute. Sometimes you, like I said, you gotta wiggle it a little bit to get in there. Now, when you're sewing on a button on your pattern, you're going to have marked where the button goes. Now, the thing to have is that thing one after I think I did is these invisible, what are called invisible marking pens. Well, when you use them, you see the marks. When you go to wash the clothes, it disappears. I mean, it's like it's on there long enough for you to be able to do the stitches you need to do without it disappearing right in the middle of it. So I have this, since I have this dark blue fabric or this white. So let's say my buttonhole on my pattern is supposed to be right here. So I mark it, and when I do my buttonhole marks, I do like an X. That way I can put the center of the button on the X. As I know, typically on your pattern, it'll have a straight line with a line on the end, but that's for the buttonhole. And of course, the button has to fit within the buttonhole. So I do a little X, and I'm going to stick button side up. Now, since this is a cam machine, it does not give me a zigzag option unless I put a cam in it. So we're going to have a cam session one day. That might be another one of these. Never did this before. Let's see what happens. So since this is a 2-hole button, well, like I said, this is going to be interesting. Oh no, I think this one will be actually be the zigzag, plain zigzag. So, like I said, here we go. You lift up the button foot And the button sits snugly, they say, right under that blue area. Line this up right. And what's supposed to happen, and I hope it does, is the needle zigzag stitches it on to the fabric. So basically, I figured out what the little blue stuff is. It's like a rubber coating, so that way the button doesn't get scratched from pressure feet and whatnot. So you're gonna have to line up the two holes with the straight part of the button foot. That's my guess anyway. And then I have to see how wide the holes are on the button itself. So this is where you do not put any power to it until you get that distance correct. So right now, to do a regular straight stitch, it's set on 0 as far as stitch width, and the length can be whatever length from on this machine from 1 to 4. So we need to know the width, or yeah, the width, because zigzags have width. Straight stitch, even the straight stitch, it does have that. Well, it just says the thread width, but on a machine, it's like there's no width for straight stitch. So zigzag yes, straight no. So for that, I'm going to turn my width dial to 1, and I'm not going to go all the way down into it. I'm just going to see where it falls in the holes of the button, if it does. Oh, it went in on that side, perfect. So now I'm going to do one more turn to see, make sure it matches up on the other side. Up. Now, if when that needle starts to come down, it's not, if it's going to hit the center of this button, I know that I need to make this dial a little bit wider. So let's see what happens. Oh, no. Okay, a 1 on here is extremely narrow, even for a zigzag. So, since it had, and I could tell by as it first started coming down. So I'm going to turn it to, and because it's so close to the center, as I turn it to the next number, which is the 2, now I see something even more interesting. My needle went to the left. So since my needle is going to the left, what do I have to do? I need to move my button, or I need to change the number on my dial. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the number on my dial and see what happens. I'm going to turn it to, so I can't see it now. Okay, that's 1. Yeah. So that actually, if I turn it all the way to 4, I have to move my button. That's okay, because I'm going to just lift the presser foot up, and where that needle is, let's see. So I guess the best rule of thumb would be on a machine like this, put it to the widest stitch width when this is it's 4, and then come back if you need to. So I don't know if there's a standard button width on buttonholes, but I'm hoping that that's the case here. All right. So this, it wants to stitch straight. I'm going to change my stitches. Change my stitch length to all the way down and see how that works. Now, it may be that I need to put a cam in this. Like I said, I've never done it with a button hole foot before. I'm just doing it like, nope, Okay, now I know a little bit more about my machine. And then let's see, if I go like this, yeah, I thought you had to line up the holes inside this little gizmo, but it only goes that far. So I'm thinking, let's see. I'm slowly moving the button along here. And the other thing I could do, actually, is just stay with a straight stitch and line up the holes so that they are vertical. I think that's what I'm going to do. If I want to do it like the modern machines, it's a zigzag stitch that you do, and you adjust your zigzag width, excuse me, to the width of the distance between the two holes in the button. So since this is a vintage cam machine, I'm going to do it this way. So I've actually got the first two stitches in the button itself, and it's right there in the way that I know today. Interesting. I'm going to put this to 0 so that now all I have is a straight stitch. So what I'll be doing is going forward, backward, sew this button on. I just need to make sure that as I'm doing it, that my stitch length is correct. So I'm still going to do the first couple stitches by hand. And I'm going to go reverse. This is the hard part. And so it's going to look so since that button foot, and I'm going to take a chance here, is actually holding it for me, then I can do this reverse and forward stuff. So I'm going to use my knee, go forward. Oh, I just broke the button. See, I told you. This is where it's almost, with this kind of machine, since I don't have the zigzag in it, it's better to use the cams. Now, so that's another thing too. If you got buttons, make sure you get a couple extra in case you do just like what I did. And like I said, I've never used it. It looks cool in theory. So I want to show you how it's done with a regular zigzag. So I need to find the one that has just a plain zigzag stitch on the front. I think that one did. Honestly, I think that one did. So how am I going to tell? How am I going to tell with a cam sewing machine that this cam that I'm going to put in here is actually just a zigzag stitch? Test stitches. Remember, test stitches. I'm going to look because the thicker they are, the more interesting they are. It's a wide zigzag. So I'm going to take a sample shot with it. That's a design. Looks like a leaf. And these are really fun. When you think about it. This one actually is for free motion stitch. So this is for quilting. This is great. And one more. Yeah. A lot of these are the thicker ones. It looks like they are for quilting. But anyhow. This thing. Never seen one. Got this hole in it. Oh, I bet you this is an adapter. Looks like an adapter for other cams. I'll have to discover what that's for. I'm not sure. Anyway, I believe this is what I need. Now, if you do what I just did, change your needle. Because I guarantee you that needle is more than likely bent now. And I didn't bring an extra needle out here. So we're going to cross our little fingers and hope and pray that it didn't mess up too bad. There. I had to put the little blue tip back on there because it came off. My mom always said, if you're gonna do something, do it right. And I used to do things really right. So I'm excited because this is the first time I put cam in this machine. Anyway, we're gonna open that baby up, and there is a mechanism in here that locks it in place. I'm trying to, okay, put it in the right zip. And it's a certain hole. Yeah. Oh, always the flat side on the camera. Put the flat side in. Okay, this gets in a position. Now there's a release lever in here. Yeah. Come on, buddy. Let's see it and figure out how. Just right out of the way. There we go. Yeah, it just takes a little wiggle and squiggle on, I guess. That one in here early. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, there's a release lever on the back here that I forgot about. So putting the cans in, and it snaps down nice and tight. Now, test stitch it. This should be interesting. Like I said, first time. And if this doesn't pan out, well, I'll iron out the bows and we'll come back to it one day. I really can't wait to use all these little designs that come with it. So we have our threads back that way. And we're going to see if this little feller will just do a plain old zigzag for me. So that goes to 2. And let's see, needle down. Let's see what happens. Well, look at that, it did. It actually did a back and forth zigzag stitch. And interestingly enough, it's interesting. Now I have it on a setting where it's a small zigzag. So, and well, a small width. So my guess is the width and the length should be the same. So the mere fact is, those holes aren't, you're not going to go very far with them. You're literally going to be doing back and forth, back and forth. So we're going to try that. Well, I'm going to try that. You can watch. Watch me mess up too. Like this. That's why I have the buttons. That little button off of there. Yeah, I know. Don't put everything on the floor, guys. And just like this. Come on. There's no extra thread out in there. Cross my finger this time. I think I figured it out, at least the button part. And put that. There we go. So again, I'm going to say, here's my button mark. Relax. And place the button with that X in the middle of the 2 holes. Okay. Place that button under the button foot. You can hold it in place. Like this. And turn the needle down up, and I've got to readjust the button because it's not in the right spot. Like that. It's supposed to be, the holes are supposed to be center, excuse me, within that space in the center. So if it's not, I'm just gonna have to move it around. Now, this is not okay. Width. Okay, it's not going to be lengthwise. It's not going to go far. So length will be front to back. width is going to be side to side. So the width part, where those two holes are in the center, is the big deal. So let's put those back where it was. Hole centered in that little box there. Right, like that. Okay. Press foot holding it in place. And let's see. The way you can tell is before you put the needle down the first time in the first hole, turn it all the way to the largest width, zigzag width. And if it goes right to the middle of that hole north, then that's the size you need. Now this is actually touching the button, so it needs to be a little bit narrow. Okay. I'm just going to turn it back one notch and see. That seems to be okay. Went from a 4 to a 3. And for that reason, this keeps wanting to move on me, so I'm going to do like this. Now, I'm actually using the can, and that could be the deal. So, let me see something. Nope, not going to go that way. This is trial and error for you guys, and I do apologize, but this little button here is making up its own mind. So, I need to do is I need to play with the stitch function, and we will come back to this one. I digress. This is what happens online when I haven't played with my machine enough. I'm used to using your standard machine. What I will probably do is redo this part of the video and do with a machine that you're familiar with. I was just itching to use this thing. And talking about machines, it is the holiday season, and I have decided that the people who I am reaching out to and teaching with these videos and letting you see me mess up, that if you are excited or curious or just want to try it, as far as learning to sew, it's a lot of fun. It really is. And I enjoy it so much that I share my joy through it. And so I have a contest that I have started. It's officially started. And it's basically a type of pay it forward. So for all you folks out there, beginners, advanced, whatever, who have been watching and not saying anything, just let me know you're there. Listen to this one. I have decided that this year that I am going to be having this contest for share a blessing, get a blessing. And basically all that is you share a blessing that you gave a stranger, or that a blessing you received from a stranger. And I have 3 prizes. This contest is completely free. This is my gift to you all, because you're the reason why I'm doing these videos, because it's people want to learn, and I love to sew, and I love to teach people how to sew. And yeah, I mess up. I'm human. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time, but this is a new machine I've used for. And so this was to show you, yeah, I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. And so with my contest, I am going to pick 3 top shared blessing stories. The number 1 blessing story is going to receive from my personal collection. And you can see them. They're not online. I have not put them up for sale anywhere. They are totally incognito. The top price is a vintage sewing machine. Now, did I get your attention yet? I hope so, because I've already gotten some submissions and they are awesome, by the way. You see, I want to bless one of you, actually three of you, with gifts. But you all that are sending me your blessing stories are blessing me. So it's all good. And in this time that we're going through right now in our world, who couldn't use some really good heart stories? Something that gives you something positive, something that makes you smile, makes your heart full. We all need it right now. Would you not agree? I think so. Too much negativity, too much ugliness. Let's concentrate on the season. The season is a giving season. So I am giving. But you have to give me something. And that's your blessing story. I believe in paying it forward. And I've been blessed. And my blessing is to pay it forward to three of you all. And who knows? I might do this once every month. You never know. It might be on the heart to do so. It might be in the plan to do so. I don't know. So the cutoff for submission to my contest is December 7th. Not too far off, right? Don't have much time. Better get that, write it down, get it going. I want to hear your stories. If you do not want them public, I do not share them. They're just for my eyes, unless you say it's okay. I wanted to make sure that you all understood that. I did have one request as such. Beautiful story. And it's not going to be public because that's the way the person wants it. And I honor a person's wishes in that respect. Sometimes those stories are very, very personal. I have my own, by the way, but one day I might share it. You can ask me what it is. So, um, what I would like for you all to do is think about someone that you did not know, a, 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 or you just gave from your heart, your soul, and didn't expect anything in return. That's what giving a blessing to someone means. And maybe they gave you one in return. I'm a rather night owl, and it's 2:33 a.m. where I am, and so I probably should get to bed because I do have a lot of cooking to do in about 5 hours or so. That's what happens when you buy a big turkey anyway. But I wanted to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, blessing contest, vintage sewing machine. That two runner-ups get something also very cool, and it will have to do with sewing. Sorry, um, that's just how it is. And please, whatever you do, share your joy, share your creativity, and just keep sewing. I love y'all. Happy